tears and uplifted the improvised. O Ali, what was the fate of your orphans on that fateful day of annihilation? Curses upon their heads were substituted with slaps and a cruel isolation. Instead of food and drinks, they were starved, their lips left parched. Under the cover of shadows, they pillaged and upon them marched, sparing them no indignity, setting them ablaze and leaving them to perish, all the while meting out torture and pain. Every moment did they relish. Where were you, Ali, on that day? For your orphans was not a soul. Surely the hand of God witnessed their state, with no one to them console. Salawat.
Thank you so much for that nice poem. Now I will ask Sayyid Taha to recite a Marsiya. Salawat.
أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. شہ کو ایک چاند چھپانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر. کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر. پھر بھی شہزادی کو آنے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. شہ نے ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا لیکن شہ نے ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا لیکن لاش اکبر کی اٹھانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. ٹکڑے چنتے ہوئے قاسم کے کہا مولا نے. ٹکڑے چنتے ہوئے قاسم کے کہا مولا نے. ہائے افسوس کے آنے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. ہاں اس قدر پیاس سے سوکھا تھا گلوئے سرور. اس قدر پیاس سے سوکھا تھا گلوے سرور شمر کو تیغ چلانے میں بہت دیر لگی قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی شہ کو ایک چاند چھپانے میں بہت دیر لگی قبر اصغر کی ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you so much for that beautiful recitation. Now I will request our respected Sheikh Shafiq Huda for this Majalis Azah. Salawat.
بادشاہ است حسین دین است حسین بی پناه است حسین سرداد نداد دست در دست یزید حقا که بنا لا اله است حسین بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. برای دیگر بلند صلوات.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد صل على وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين ورحمة الله على محبيهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. صلى الله عليه وسلم. Respected sisters and brothers, my youngsters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام. May Allah accept our condolences to the Imam of our time, to the Holy Prophet's family, and to the global, worldwide Muslim Ummah as we mark these days of the Shahada of Amr Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. One of the things that I had said in my second lecture, which was supposed to have been my last lecture, for the Ashar at least anyways, but the destiny and decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only He knows Himself. I'd mentioned that one of the things that we have been sort of, I don't want to say neglectful on, but perhaps not as active or not as informed of or not as dedicated to, is the appreciation and understanding of the Quran Majid. And the Holy Quran, which is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the guidance for mankind, it introduces itself in a number of ways in the Quran Majid. It first of all, at the very beginning of the Holy Quran, in the second surah, because the first surah is Al-Fatiha. And you know, I wanted to, and I suggested this topic, inshallah, which I think I appreciated you accepting, inshallah, because I had kept it open to the administrators to basically give me any suggestions. And of course, from the public, whether it's online or live, you're welcome to tell me any suggestions that you want me to, inshallah, cover or have some discussion on. And so Allah Ta'ala in the first surah, which is known as Suratul Fatiha, and one of the commentators mentions, he said, you know why it's called Surah Fatiha? Fatiha, you know, in some communities, in some cultures, Fatiha, we call that tabarruk, the things that we pass out, the food that we give after a majlis or after Jummah, we call that Fatiha. But in actuality, that is not Fatiha. Fatiha is the surah of the Holy Quran, which is the very first surah. And the reason why it's called Fatiha, in order for us to understand the reason, we have to know what does the word Fatiha mean. Iftah, Dua Iftitah, talks about opening the doors of Allah's rahmah, for example, opening the door of Allah's blessings, inshallah. So Fatiha literally means to open. To open. So the Quran Majid opens with Surah Fatiha, and it opens basically the doors towards Allah's grace, towards Allah's bounties, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's basically deliverances of grace on this earth. And the Quran Majid, so the Fatiha becomes that opening of the Quran Majid. So the very second surah, the second surah is the longest surah of the Quran. And that is the surah of, and I know the Mu'minin know it, so I will ask you to help me out. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all, inshallah. Because I had warned you that, you know, my style is to get everybody involved so that you stay awake, and inshallah, I will also stay awake. Okay? You're with me, inshallah. Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest surah of the Quran Majid. And you know, people sometimes make very sad jokes, but funny jokes, and they say that, you know, when those who are new to the Quran Majid, they come. And one time somebody was reciting Surah Baqarah, and it took about 2.5 hours to finish Surah Baqarah. And the man was starting to leave. And he said, what happened? He says that I heard that the next surah that you're going to be reciting is Surah Al-Fil. If Baqarah is that long, imagine what Fil will be like, the elephant. So, you know, but it's not like that. Surah Al-Fil is actually one of the shortest surah of the Quran Majid. So how does Surah Baqarah start? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif Lam Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book. Alif Lam Mim. These are known as Huruf Muqadda'at, the special powered letters. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book. Actually, it is talking, you know, if it was هَذِهِ الْكِتَابِ, then it's this is. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى. That is the book in which there is no doubt. Allah Ta'ala is introducing His own Quran with His own selection of words. My dear sisters and brothers, you look at the wording and you will come to a very important understanding of the Quran, explaining the Quran. Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam has been quoted as saying that the Quran itself will explain the Quran. The tafsir of the Quran is in the Quran itself. But at the same time, the Holy Prophet of Islam warned us of one thing. He says, do not, and he emphasized it over and over, do not interpret even one ayah of the Quran according to your own khahishat, according to your own wish, according to your own desire or thoughts. यानी कुरान मजीद की एक आयत भी अपने आप की तफसीर मत करना. Yani rely on the authentic, authorized, reliable sources, and that is none other than the house in which the Quran was revealed and the house of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. So the sixth Imam reminds us that the Quran explains the Quran. Rasulullah reminds us not to interpret the Quran the way we want to, not according to our wishes or khahishat. And so the Quran is now telling us that is the book, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ, in which there is no doubt. There is no shak. There is no discrepancy. And it's often interesting because the people, sometimes non-Muslims, Orientalists, writers, those who are hostile to Islam, they like to come about and bring various contradictions of the Holy Quran. They say, well, look, this is saying one thing, this is saying the opposite, this is coming. And one of the Mufassirin, one of the commentators actually responded to this in a very interesting way. He tells his students, when one of the students was saying, well, why is this, why is that, why are there appearing contradictions in the Holy Quran? He says that if you write a book, you have written a book, he tells his student, and I pinpoint faults in that book and contradictions and illogical talks in it, how would you feel? What would you say? What would be your response? And the student tells his teacher that I would have to sit down with you and explain to you what I meant and what my wordings were and how I was wanting to convey and what this means in this context and what this means in that context. And one of the things that we learn and we know in the English language, that there are different meanings to different words. And depending on the context, I often get sometimes people calling me and say, can you please explain to me what this word is, what this word means? And my response, and even to my kids, they will bear witness to this, I will say, first, read it to me in context. Read me the context, then I can explain to you what it means in that context. If I was to tell you to define the word bear, the first thing you should ask me is, Brother Shafiq, which bear are you talking about? B-E-A-R? B-A-R-E? To bear a difficulty is different than being scared by a bear. To be bare means to be naked. And so the word has different meanings, different contexts, different connotations, depending on how you spell it and how you use it. And keeping in mind that the nuktas and the Arab, the Zabar Zumma, Fatah Kisra Zumma, Zabar Zer Pesh, sorry, came later on. In fact, 43 Hijri was when the writing of the Quran is what we have in our hand today. The Quran was what it was. The people used to do the hifz of the Quran Majid. They used to do the memorization. But a lot of these things, and that is one of the reasons why at the Shahadat of Hazrat Fatima Zahra, we mention Allahumma Sant. Jazakallah khair. We mention that some riwayah mentions Khamsa Sab'een, some say Khamsa Tis'een. There were no nuktas at the time. So events were recorded according to date. So things happened, 75 days after Rasulullah or 95 days. If you write Khamsa Sab'een and Khamsa Tis'een, it's exactly the same. My Arabic speaking brothers, Awali will help me out inshallah if my Arabic has got some issues, and I know you're comfortable in Arabic as well. And so you will be able to understand and appreciate that the context, terminology, and the usage may differ from one side to another to another. So this student was telling the teacher, if I have written the book, only I will be able to explain to you what I mean in this time. What I mean here and what I mean over there. So the teacher replies, and what right do you have to point out, na'udhu billah, contradictions in the Holy Quran when you have not written the Quran, you don't have the Quran revealed in your household, you don't understand the full terminology of the Quran. Let's ask those in whose house the Quran was revealed to explain the Quran, because that has come from divine source to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam. And there is especially, when the Quran says, La rayba fihi, there's no doubt in that book, there's no contradiction in that book. There is special powers in that book. Sayyid yesterday so beautifully mentioned in his lecture about how the power of Bismillah overturned the adab in the qabr of a father. When the son was learning how to recite Quran Majid, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim recited, and mashallah, the adab of not only his father in the qabr, but so many other people in that cemetery was also alleviated because of one person, one child reciting Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That I begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Allahu Akbar. You know, and I'm just going to move on to that. I'll just extend upon that, inshallah, if that is okay with you. It was a teacher once was noticing that one of his students was coming late to dars every day. He was always late for his dars. So the teacher asked him, but you're missing the first part of the class. Every day you're coming in late, every day at the same time. Can't you come in earlier? He says that, oh teacher, oh ustad, I cannot come earlier because I have to cross the river. I have to cross the river, and the boat only comes at this time. It brings me over, and I come here, and that's it. That's all I can do. This is the only time I can make it. So he said, but you're missing part of the class every day. And these are, the important parts of the class are being missed. So the teacher takes a ta'weed, a little amulet. Okay? He puts an amulet in this, the boy in a pouch, and he gives it to the boy. He says, take this amulet, take this tasbih. Tomorrow, don't wait for the boat. Don't wait for the boat. Step on the river water, and you'll be able to come across, and you'll be on time. The next day, student is on time. The student himself was wondering. The teacher was happy. Everybody was happy. Every day this would be done. Every day he would come on time, come on time. After a certain time, he began to wonder that what ta'weez did this teacher give me? What did the teacher write? What special Ismi Azam, this, that, what dua must have been there? What must have been written by this teacher? And the curiosity became unbearable for him. The curiosity became so much that he decided one day to open the ta'weez and to see what was in there. Sometimes we are told that just trust in Allah, just leave it. Don't become over inquisitive. Don't think too much. I mean, in that lecture I had mentioned that we should do tadabbur, tafakkur, and reflect. But when I was mentioning that, actually this time I got a chance to clarify, there are certain things that we need to clarify, that we need to think about and do tadabbur on, and certain things that are at a mystical level that should be just left alone. Amirul Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam has been quoted as saying that don't reflect on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala too much. You will not be able to understand Him. You will not be able to grasp the full meaning of Tawheed and Ilahiyat and the whole foundation of Allah's, Allah's being, Allah's essence. So don't think about it too much. You will blow your fuse. This is my terminology. You will not be able to ponder properly and appreciate. You might actually go towards kufr in that. Because then you start thinking about what Allah can do, what Allah Ta'ala can't do, and this is basically a whole different subject altogether. But basically, this is what we want to say. There's certain times we have to reflect, and certain times we just have to leave it. This student was told by the teacher, don't open this ta'weez. And if you ever want your child to do something, tell them not to do something. Parents are laughing right now, right? They will understand what I'm saying. If you don't want your child to do something, tell him, do this. And if you don't want him to do something, tell him, don't do that. And if you want him to do something or her to do something, tell him, don't do that. Khabardar, be careful, ihtiyat. No, that is the thing that they will do. Because, they say in English, the fruit of the forbidden is the sweetest. There's nothing in Islam, but it's just a Western saying. The fruit of the forbidden. So whatever you are told not to do, that's what we want to do. Okay. So the student was told, don't open the ta'weez, don't open this amulet. After a long time, he says, I can't bear it, I want to open it. He opens the amulet. And he says, it was written, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He looks on the back, he looks on the front, he looks all over. That's all? That's all? Now think for a moment what I'm saying. The next day, he goes to the water, he puts his foot in the water and he almost drowns. He falls in there. He has to wait for the boat. He waits for the boat. He gets to class late. Dars pe usi der mein pahunche, jis der mein wo pehle pahunch rahe the. When he reaches the dars, the teacher looks at him. You opened the ta'weez, didn't you? You opened the ta'weez, didn't you? The student puts his head down. He says, Aga, yes, I did. I'm sorry, I did. But then he says, after the teacher says, okay, I'm going to talk to you afterwards. The dars is finished, class finishes, he comes afterwards. He says that I'm surprised. The student is telling the teacher, what did you do? What did you give me? The teacher says, I gave you Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But he says, that's all. He says, that's why it didn't work for you now. Up until that time, up until now, you were trusting in what was in there. And the power of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim let you do these miracles. The minute you open it and you saw in your mind, Bas faqad hada, bas only Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your iman and your aqidah went down on the power of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, therefore it did not have any effect on you. You were thinking only Bismillah. Do you see how Iman and Aqidah plays a role? One time a man comes to Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. He says, Yabna Rasulullah, zara mujhe bataiye mu'min ki shaan kya hai? Mu'min ki pehchan kya hai? How, what is a believer? What are the qualities of a believer? What are the sifat of a believer? The Imam says, a true believer, a true mu'min, if he points to the wall will turn to gold. And the wall starts turning to gold. Imam says, stop, I'm just giving an example. Stop, I'm just telling him an answer for his question. Yani, if somebody has got Iman on Allah, Iman on the Quran, Iman on Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, the true Iman, Yaqini Iman, Hakikatan Iman, they will have power that nobody else will ever have. They will have power that nothing else ever has. That is why Hazrat Marhum Ayatullah al-Uzma Qaid Bahjat has been quoted as saying, somebody who really gives up their desires, gives up their lust, truly trusts in Allah, truly believes in Allah, they will see what nobody else can see, and they will hear what nobody else can hear. The Quran Majid has got the power. But the actual meaning of the Quran is not the book that you have in front of you. It is much deeper than that. That is why on a number of Jummah khutbahs I have mentioned something, that not a month or a year goes by, somebody doesn't call our office here asking, what is the kafara? I dropped the Quran Majid. By mistake it fell from the shelf. My child dropped it. What is the kafara I have to pay? What is the diya I have to give? What is the penalty? And my answer has always been the same. There's no kafara. There's not even an istighfar. If you want to, alhamdulillah, you can. If you want to give something in sadaqah or khairat, that's fine. Alhamdulillah, you can do it. But there's no wajib, kafara, diya or whatever. They say, but I dropped the book of Allah. I said, you did not drop the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is impossible to drop the book of Allah. You have dropped a few pages that have been printed in a printing press somewhere with the words of the Quran Majid, not the Quran Majid, because the Quran Majid is a special book that is in the heart of the true believers. This is just what we are using to recite from. Keep that in mind. هذا قرآن الكريم في كتاب مكنون. This is the noble Quran, but it is inside a hidden book. It is not the zahir. This is not what we are seeing. This is a printout. This is a photocopy. This is somewhere in a printing press. So what we're saying here is that the actual meaning, the essence and the power of the Quran is not in the book that we have physically here in front of us, but rather what the real meaning of the Quran is. A philosopher has been quoted as saying, he says, don't impress people with how many ayat of the Quran you have memorized. Don't impress people with how many juz of the Quran you have done hifz of. You have memorized 10 juz, 20 juz, I've memorized 50 surahs. No, impress upon the people by acting on the teachings of the Quran. What the Quran has told you, what the Quran has informed you, what the Quran has guided you to do, and then you show the people, this is what the Quran is. Not just saying, oh, I've memorized 10 surahs, 20 surahs, 50 surahs, 100 surahs. What is the meaning of that Quran? How are you implementing them? Are you living honestly? Are you living reliably? Are you living truthfully? What the Quran gave us as a message, are we following that? And if we are, then alhamdulillah, then that is the meaning of the Quran. You become the Quran. You see the difference. And so when you appreciate the Quran, yes, you see what the Quran is telling us. You see how the Quran is informing us. You know, the Quran Majid, when you take a look at it, Why did it say لا ريب فيه? هدى للمتقين. هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. The first thing it reminds us, it informs us, there's no doubt in it. It is a guidance. Hudan lil muttaqeen. There is a guidance for whom? You see, not everybody gets guidance from the Quran. In my Jummah speech today, I mentioned, I said that imagine the Quran Majid was revealed in Arabia. In which language? The Arabic language. And so, this is why it's always comical for me. People either learn a few words learn a few words of Arabic. I learn a few lines of Arabic and I become a mufassir of the Quran. I learn a few alif, ba, ta, tha, I become a mufassir. I start interpreting the Quran. I tell you this is what the Quran Majid says. This is the ayat of the Quran. I start shooting off a few ayat of the Quran. Allahu Akbar. If learning Arabic and learning the language was enough to become mufassir, then we've got 250 million Arabs in the world. They're all mufassir of the Quran. They're all commentators of the Quran. You will say, well, in the time of Rasulullah, when the Quran was revealed in the presence of the Prophet, imagine it was in a language of Arabic which was foreign to Bilal, right? For Bilal, it was not his mother language. For Salman, it was not his mother tongue. Even Abu Dhar, who was from the southern part of the Ghifar tribe, for them it was not. And yet it had such an impact on them, my sisters and brothers. It had such an impact. It changed their whole lives and it made them true followers of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. For Abu Dhar, what did the Prophet say? The sun has not shone on somebody more honest than Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. For Salman, what did the Prophet say? As-Salman minna ahl al-bayt. Salman is from my family. For Bilal, what did the Prophet do? He made him the muazzin who would call thousands of the musallin to come for salat. All of them ghairi Arab. All of them ajam. Because the Quran affected them. The Quran played a role in their life. The Quran touched their hearts. And then you had Arabs like Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, Abu Lahab. What happened with them? In their language, in their country, in front of them the revelation was coming, and yet it had no effect or no impact on them. Didn't even touch their hearts. Till the end of their lives, the Quran itself sent them to Jahannam. Surah Lahab, you've read it. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. You know the surah. I'm still a bit raw. And so what happens? The Quran has an impact. Just Arabic language is not sufficient. The meaning, the deep meaning, is what we want to reach out towards. When I was staying in Qom, when I was living in Qom, one of our friends, one of my classmates, he was telling us a story about his friend who had gone from Egypt or one of the Arab countries. He had gone from Egypt to Paris. When he came back, he told them, he said that I went to Paris. In Paris, a non-Muslim, kafir country, disbelievers as far as our Aqidah is concerned. In Paris, what does he see? He said, I saw no Muslims there. I didn't see any Muslims, but I saw Islam there. I saw Islam there, but I didn't see any Muslims. When I came back to my home country, I saw Muslims everywhere, but I didn't see Islam. When we were talking and asking him to explain, what do you mean? He says, when I went to Paris, people were honest, people had etiquettes. If they promised that they'll do something at this time or they'll meet you at this time, they were there, they would be there. They have a welfare system, they look after their poor. They have social services. They look after the needy. If somebody is hungry, they try and give them food. I saw Islam. Honesty, integrity, all of these good deeds that the Quran talks about. Amilul salihat, amilul khair, everything. But there was no Muslims. Nobody said La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. No. When I came back here, I saw everybody saying La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. I saw Muslims everywhere. But I didn't see Islam. You tell me I'll be there at 5 o'clock. I don't show up till 8 o'clock. I am cheating you. I'll tell you that you buy this from me for $5. It's worth $20, but I'm giving it to you for $5. It's only worth 50 cents. People lie, people cheat, people steal, people do commit sins. They hurt each other, they backbite each other. There's Muslims everywhere, but there's no Islam. The meaning of the Quran now becomes understood and appreciated. Because you see, the Quran itself is telling us, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikrah. In Surah Mubarakah, in Surah Hashr, Allah Ta'ala talks about the power of the Quran Majid. In Surah Hashr, verse number 21, 59th Surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 21, Allah Ta'ala says that in kana, if the Quran Majid, ala jabalin, if it was revealed on a mountain, the mountain would have gone into sajda before Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And in this, we have given a sign to to mankind, ala nasi. Walakin, but the problem is, the responsibility on mankind is that they should have tafakkur, they should reflect and ponder upon it. And in Surah Hijr is where Allah Ta'ala, 15th Surah of the Holy Quran, verse number 9, Allah Ta'ala mentions, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra, inna lahu lahafidhun. We have revealed this reminder. It's a reminder, a dhikr. And we have revealed this dhikr, and we are lahana hafidhun. We are the protectors of this dhikr. That means that people will try to manipulate, will try to change, will try to basically dirtify, pollute the message of the Quran, the words of the Quran. Walakin we are hafidhun. We are the protectors of this. We are the safeguarders of the Quran Majid. So the Quran will be manipulated. People will use it and abuse it to their own means. That's why the Prophet said what he had said. Until today we see in front of our eyes what? Every firqa, every deviant group. You look at the Taliban, you look at the Wahhabis, you look at the Takfiris, you look at the Sufis, you look at the Shia, you look at the Sunnah, you look at everybody. What do they use as their guidance? What do they use as their excuse? Oh, we follow the Quran. The Quran says this, the Quran says that. Baba, who made you an expert on the Quran? Everybody claims to use the Quran. Where is the real message of the Quran? And that is what sometimes gets overlooked. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The true message of the Quran circumvents all these borders. The true essence of the Quran. That's why if we appreciate and understand the Quran, it will give us powers beyond recognition. It will give us powers beyond understanding. You heard one yesterday from our dear Sayyid. You saw that the power of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim can give you the ability to walk on water. Today, inshallah, at the end, I will talk about one other thing. And inshallah, that will give you an understanding of how powerful the Quran is. And when somebody becomes attached to the Quran, what it will do. In fact, I'll give it to you now, before the Masaib. That when the head of Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam was cut off, and some of the historians said not only Abu Abdullah, but even the other ashab, what happened when their heads were cut off and put on lances, they would be reciting the Quran Majid, Surah Kahf. That means the body, life as we know it, was irrelevant. This was a border that had passed. If it can allow you to walk on water, my sisters and brothers, if the real Quran can allow you to walk on water, then the real Quran, if you've had the appreciation and understanding, it will allow you to speak even though your head has been cut off and put on a lance. The problem is we don't know the Quran. We haven't appreciated and understood the Quran. Ayatollah Shaheed Murtada Mutahari writes a very beautiful analogy in his writings. He was talking about Nahjul Balagha, but I will apply his analogy to the Quran as well. You remember, he used it for Nahjul Balagha. He gives a beautiful story that, now we are suffering with this coronavirus and COVID. We cannot always gather. We have not been able to gather for a year and a half. We've been doing everything on Zoom, online, Skype, and this and that. But khair, inshallah, one day if it comes back to normal and we can all get together every Thursday and every wafat and wiladat and shahadat, inshallah, and Muharram and Shahr Ramadan, it'll be, inshallah, a prayer answered. But in the past, when we used to get together on Laylatul Jummah, imagine for a moment, we are sitting down, full house, somebody comes and sits down. The following Thursday, somebody comes and sits down. Somebody comes, sits down, sometimes they say, excuse me, and they bump me or something. He's giving this analogy. And I'll tell you this happened to us here as well once. Shaykh Mutari is mentioning that after 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks of this happening, one of the brothers tries to find out that who is this man who comes in every day and just sits down and doesn't make a big deal of it, big issue of anything. Shaykh Mutari is mentioning that one of the brothers or the others went to him and talked to him, and then he comes and tells him, the other person, he says, do you know who that is? That's the district commissioner. That's a member of parliament. That's a government minister who's been coming here and sitting here. So the following Thursday, what happens? When that person comes in, everybody stands up and says, Assalamu alaikum, istiqbal. Hello, welcome, ahla wa sahlan, marhaba, bifarmaid, Assalamu alaikum. Everybody, all this time we've been ignoring him for 3 months. Now all of a sudden we know who he is, we are saying salam. So what happens? We are saying salam only because of his power and position. Sahih? And up until now we didn't know. He was just sitting there and we thought he was just a piece of nothing. He was just like us, nothing more, nothing less. He says that the Nahjul Balagha of Amirul Mu'mineen is in a similar position. I am saying, inshallah, the Quran Majid, my analogical review is on this level, to associate with this. That the Quran Majid is with us. It is around us. Nahjul Balagha is there. Sahifai Kamila is there. It's like that person who just comes and sits and we ignore him. We ignore it. We don't give it attention. We don't give it importance until sometimes something happens. And if we were to realize the true power of the Quran Majid or Nahjul Balagha or Saifa Kamila, then we would actually get up and do the istiqbal and give it at least some of the haqq that it deserves to be given. One salawat ala Muhammad. Today, if we were to ask an ordinary one of our students here, just a simple few questions, that amongst the ayat of the Quran, the surah of the Quran Majid, if I was to ask how many surahs are in the Quran, I'm sure all of you could answer this, right? How many surahs are in the Quran Majid? 114. Okay, simple question. Now, let's get a little more, how much do we really know? Out of that, are a majority of the surahs Makki or Madani? There'll be a split, ji? Majority are Madani, Makki. I'm sure the line will be divided half. Then, it would have actually, Medina was 10 years of the Holy Prophet. This is where the length of the surahs, so you would be right if you would say either way. Okay, because the length of the surah is very close to the Madani and the Makki, okay? Madani may take over. But the actual number of surah is Makki. 86 surahs of the Quran have been revealed in the city of Makkah Mukarram. 26, 28 in that neighborhood, because some of them overlap. Some have Makki ayats, some have Madani ayats within them, and some of them. But the actual, if you look at the Quran Majid, at the very beginning, at the top, it will say Suratul Makkiyal, for example, Bani Israel or Isra or whatever. And then it will say Suratul Madaniya and whatever the name of the surah is. And then we say, okay, for example, this is for my youngsters. Which prophet, for example, is mentioned more than any other prophet in the Quran Majid? Do forgive me, the only problem is the fan is, no, I'm saying it's just distracting me from listening. So if I cannot hear, forgive me. It's only for this, but don't turn it off because we need this. Ahsant, mashallah. One salawat upon the mu'mineen, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because some of my students used to say it was Nabi Allah, Rasulullah, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa salli ala Muhammad. But it is actually Nabi Allah Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, jazakallah khair. And in fact, if you were to look at the name of Muhammad, it's actually only mentioned in the Quran Majid. And if you take a look at Suratul Muhammad, where it says the title of the surah, then otherwise, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, Ya ayyuhan Nabi, Taha, Sirajum Munir, Yasin, Muzzammil, Muddassir, all the beautiful, beautiful titles of the Prophet. And then we come to the various ideas. Some ayats of the Quran came to give us injunctions at a certain period of time in a certain era. I don't have the time to go into the detail and the depth of that right now, but some of them came to give us a certain time in certain period. Then other verses came to abrogate that previous one and give us a new ruling. One of the reasons why, for example, the Takfiris or the Wahhabis, they blame the Shia that, oh, you people believe in Shafa'at. And we know that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam in his writings, Shaykh Dasta Ghaib, in his monumental work, Gunahan Kabira, has talked about Shafa'at. And our Aimma alayhi salam have told us to believe in Shafa'at, intercession. The Wahhabis take ayat of the Quran which talks about no Shafa'at, no permission of intercession, no right of interceding for you, Yawm al-Qiyamah. The commentators of the Quran have taken an authority of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the authorities of the Quran, and says that yes, in 11 places in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala has talked about no shafa'at, no intercession. But in one place, in one of the most powerful ayat of the Quran, which is known as Ayatul Kursi, Surat al-Mubarakah Baqarah, Ayatul Kursi, which inshallah I hope many of you, most of you, some of you have been comfortable reciting or at least memorized. If not, before you go to sleep, inshallah recite it. You will see various barakat in your dreams and in your sleep that you will not have experienced otherwise. One of the things that one commentator has written is that anybody who recites Ayatul Kursi after every wajib namaz, after every wajib salah, Ayatul Kursi, you can read it to Aliyul Azim or go to Khalidun, whichever inshallah, both will be acceptable, inshallah, Allahu Alam. If you recite it, the only thing that will remain between you and Jannah will be Maut. Ayatul Kursi. What does it say in Ayatul Kursi? It says, لا شفاء إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. يعني there is no shafa'at إلا بإذنه. The same Allah who told us that there is no shafa'at, He is now rectifying by saying that the shafa'at of those false gods, those false idols will be of no avail. But if Allah Ta'ala gives somebody permission to do shafa'at, then that shafa'at will be accepted and that will take you into Jannah, inshaAllah. The permission of Allah. That is why Nabi Allah Isa alayhi salam did what? He says, I'm bringing the dead back to life. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm curing the lepers, I'm curing the sick. Bi-idhnillah. With the permission of Allah. It's the permission of Allah that gives me the power to do this. Everything rests on that. And that's what it means to appreciate the Quran. This is the book in which there is no doubt. The book that our Mawla Abu Abdullah recited from, despite the body and the head being severed. This was one of those miracles of Karbala, the Quran. The Imam showed us what it meant to act on the Quran, and the ashab of the Imam showed us the power of the Quran as well. The suffering in Karbala from the time that the Imam reached, as was mentioned in the Masaib, was such that they could not, this heat was unbearable at times. On the 4th of Muharram, they were moved away from the camps, from the water. They were moved away from the water on the 4th of Muharram. So the 2nd of Muharram they arrived and they had pitched the tents near the Furat. On the 4th, the army of Umar Asad and Hur came and told Abu Abdullah that you will have to move away from the water. Imam faces some argument from Abbas, Ali Akbar, and some of the companions. And they say that, Mawla, we were here first. Why should we have to move away from the water? The Imam says that we will not begin any altercation. If they have told us to move, we will move away. We will still have access to the water. They all move from there. They all move away from the water. Imam's instruction was there. Nobody is going to argue with the Imam, my dear brothers. My dear sisters, my dear children. The Imam and the camp of the Imam spend all that time and energy unpitching the tents and moving away from the Furat. In fact, according to some narrations, if you have been to Karbala, may Allah give us the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah. May Allah give us the chance to go to Karbala Mu'alla, to Najaf Ashraf Mawla Abu Abdullah. Please call us to Karbala. Please call us to Najaf. You will see how far away the Khayyam of the Imam was from the Furat. You will see how many kilometers distance the army of Umar Asad moved him. And so the Imam still moves. And then every day from the day the Imam had reached Karbala, army after army, contingent after contingent, फौज के ऊपर फौज आती जा रही है. आखिर में ज़ैनब कुबरा ने सवाल किया, भैया जान, कोई ये नहीं है जो आपकी नुसरत के लिए आ सके. Hazrat Zainab asks him, oh my dear brother, Umar Asad has got all this army, Yazid's armies are coming thousand by thousand by thousand. Is there nobody who can help you, oh my dear brother? At that time, the Imam on the plains of Karbala writes a letter to somebody in Kufa. Min al-Husayn ibn Ali ila rajulun faqihun mujtahidun Habib bin Madahir. Imam writes a respectful letter to a childhood friend of his, to somebody with whom he had grown up in Medina, with somebody with whom he had grown up, and the Imam writes to him. And he doesn't say that, oh my dear friend, oh my friend Habib, come and help me. The Imam addresses him, ila rajulun faqihun mujtahidun. I'm writing to a scholar, a jurisprudent, a man of authority and ilm, Habib, son of Madahir. And the Imam writes just a short letter that I am in some difficulty. Can you come and help me in Karbala? Azadaran Imam, जो खत इमाम ने लिखा था इतना लंबा नहीं था, लेकिन खत में सिर्फ पैगाम पहुंचाना है हबीब को. And in Kufa, keep in mind by now, Muslim ibn Aqil has been killed. There is a search going on for the children of Muslim. Kufa is under curfew. There is great danger. There is great risk in Kufa. The children of Muslim have not been caught because that was their shahada took place a year later. And so Kufa is in a very tense situation. In that tense situation, at the house of Ibn Madahir, somebody comes knocking. Azadaran Imam, na पूछिए मुझे कि हबीब के दिल पे क्या गुजर रही थी जब दरवाजे पे खटखटा रहे. He says, I am a messenger and هذا رسالة من Hussein bin Ali. I have brought you a letter. I have brought you a message from Hussein ibn. When Hazrat Habib hears that a message has come from Imam Hussein, he quickly rushes to the door. He takes the letter. He puts the letter on his forehead. He kisses the letter. He doesn't even open it, and he has given full respect to it with tears in his eyes. He opens the letter and reads it. His wife, who is waiting for him at the dinner table, says, Habib, what is the letter saying? Where is it from? He replies, it is from our Mawla. It is from our Mawla Hussein, and it is telling us, he's telling me that he is in some trouble, he needs help, and he wants me to go to Karbala. Habib wants to just see what the situation is like at home. He looks at his wife, asks him, Habib, what is your intention? इरादा क्या है? जाने का इरादा है या नहीं? Habib को इम्तिहान लेना है. Habib wants to just do a test. He says, I'm wondering what should I do? I'm not sure what I should do. She takes her hijab and she passes it to Habib and she says, Habib, you take my hijab. I will go to help the son of Fatima Zahra. And Habib tells her, I just wanted to see what your iman would be like, what it would be like to be a widow and what you will have to face afterwards. Of course I will go and help Mawla. Of course I will go and help Imam. Habib tells his servant to keep the horse ready in the middle of the night. As I told you, Kufa was under curfew. Nobody was allowed to come in or allowed to go out very easily. Habib tells his servant, stay ready at this time in the middle of the night. रात की तारीखी में आमादा रहना, हबीब जाएंगे करबला की तरफ. My dear mourners, when the time that they had already agreed upon had come close, Habib was delayed. Habib was delayed. The master was talking to the horse. Oh dear horse, in case if something has happened to my master Habib, I will take you and I will go to Karbala myself. As he was talking to the horse, Habib heard this conversation, embraced his servant and said, may Allah bless. May Allah bless you. And he says, I am freeing you in the way of Allah. Anta hura, you are free now. You can go wherever you want. The servant looks at his Mawla Habib. He says, all this time I served you. Today you are going towards Jannah. And you are leaving me. मैं भी साथ आऊंगा, गुलाम ने कहा. I will also come with you. Together they mount the horse. They are going towards Karbala. At the time of Fajr, he is reaching Karbala. All of the members of Imam Hussein, all of the members of Imam Hussein's force are all happy and celebrating because Imam had kept one sword aside. My friend is coming. My friend is coming. When Habib arrives, everybody is excited. Everybody is pleased. When this commotion reaches the tent of Zainab Kubra, she asks her Fizza, Fizza, what has happened? Why is there so much celebration happening? Fizza comes and finds out that Habib has arrived. Habib has arrived. Hazrat Zainab says, Amma Fizza, jao, jaake Habib ke कहना कि सानिए ज़हरा ने सलाम भिजवाया है. जब ये सलाम लेके पहुंची उम्मे फिजा, हबीब ने अपने अमामा को जमीन पे फेंक दिया, सर को पीटने लगे. हाय जमाना, ज़हरा की लाल, मुझ जैसे फकीर को सलाम. Hazrat Zainab tells Fizza, go and tell Habib that Zainab conveys her salam to you. When the message of salam reaches Habib, he throws his amama on the floor. He hits his head and says, what has happened? That the daughter of Fatima is sending salam to this faqir, to this poor distressed one. Imam Hussein extends congratulations to Habib. They have an embrace. Habib then asks for permission to go on the battlefield on the time of the day of Ashura. As Habib is fighting and Habib becomes injured and falls, Imam Hussein makes one promise to him. He says, oh Habib, my promise is that till the day of Qiyamah, those who come for my ziyarah, they will first say salam to you, then they will come to me. Till today in Karbala Mualla, you will see the qabr of Habib ibn Mazahir. First say salam to Habib, take his permission, and then go to Mawla Abu Abdullah. Ki Abu Abdullah ka ye wada tha, hey Habib, Kufa chhod ke meri nusrat ke liye aaye, qiyamat tak Hussein ne ye waade ko pura kar. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allah accept this ibadat from us, forgive our sins, give us a tawfiq to remain away from sins. Protect our ulama, our maraja who are serving while the imam is in occultation. Give maghfirat to our marhameen, Ya Allah. Give shifa to those who are ill. Protect the ulama, the maraja, Ya Allah. Hasten the return of Imam al-Hujjah so that the battle of Karbala will be avenged, and let us have till iman and taqwa such that we will help the imam and will stay with the imam till the end of our lives. Rabbana taqabbal minna. إنك أنت السميع العليم. ماتم حسين يا حسين يا حسين
يا حسين يا حسين يا
لبش بوسیده مزن که این سر حسین است جهان ز قتلش بشور و شین است مزن که این سر جهان ز قتلش قطع شود دست یزید پلید قطع شود دست یزید پلید تا نزند بر لب شاه شهید تا نزند بر لب شاه شهید بنای زد این سر یزید و می گفت بنای زد این سر یزید و می گفت عجب لبی تو عزیز زهرا مزن که این سر حسین است جهان ز قتلش بشور و شین است مزن که این سر حسین است جهان ز قتلش بشور و شین است صلوات بلند
حسین یا حسین یا حسین میرا نانا نبی میری ماں سیدہ میرا بابا علی میرا بھائی حسن ہم ہی ہیں پنجتن ہم ہی ہیں پنجتن میری کیا ہے خطا میری کیا ہے خطا میری کیا ہے خطا مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد پیارا نہیں ہوں کیا میں زہرا کا جایا نہیں ہوں کیا میں زہرا کا جایا نہیں ہوں کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا میرے نانا نے کلمہ سکھایا اور قرآن تمہیں سنایا میرے نانا نے کلمہ سکھایا اور قرآن تم کو سنایا کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند ہو پانی کیا محمد وہ مدینہ جہاں میرا گھر ہے اور مسجد میں اس گھر کا در ہے وہ مدینہ جہاں میرا گھر ہے اور مسجد میں اس گھر کا در ہے کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کر پانی کیا محمد کا نہیں ہوں میں جو پانی کبھی مانگتا تھا کیوں تڑپتی تھی ماں اب میں سمجھا میں جو پانی کبھی مانگتا تھا کیوں تڑپتی تھی ماں اب میں سمجھا پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند آنی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں میں جو چاہوں برس جائیں بادل خون میں ڈوبا نظر آئے مقتل میں جو چاہوں برس جائیں بادل خون میں ڈوبا نظر آئے مقتل جنگ کرنے میں آیا نہیں ہوں جنگ کرنے میں آیا نہیں جنگ کرنے میں آیا نہیں ہوں کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی کیا محمد پیارا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین ومحمد وآل Muhammad salawat. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, we'll be giving the adhan shortly. If I can request my youngsters, my young brothers and sisters to help out lay out the prayer mats, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.